Hello guys, Flanker is here. The January patch has been announced, and same as all previous updates, this one will lead to significant changes on the trading post. The main reason of them is obviously the introduction of mutated expeditions. So in this video, we will analyze the market to find out what should we buy now while it is still cheap, which prices will change, and what might be a good investment. This video will have several parts and a final conclusion, so make sure to watch it till the end. Let's start with Arcana. First of all, the demand for corrupted, ancient, and angry earth coatings will increase because players will need them in Dynasty, Lazarus, and Genesis expeditions. Therefore, the price for the main offensive regions, which are mostly tier 5 magical creatures, will increase. So if you just want to invest, then I recommend you to place cheap buy orders for them. And if you want to craft coatings for sale, then also consider stockpiling some secondary ingredients, because now there is pretty much no demand for them and they're really dirt cheap. Many players actually don't even know about them and automatically use modes, which is definitely not a good idea. Now let's take a look at ward potions. Previously, you could rarely see anyone using them, but after the patch, I'm sure they will become extremely useful. Of course, I'm talking about the corrupted, ancient, and angry earth ward potions. They will become a must-have for tanks and pretty much for all group members who are trying to complete the latest stages of mutated dungeons for silver and gold ranks. The number of deaths and team wipes may significantly reduce the score of the group in a mutated expedition, so using all possible ways to increase the survivability will be the best strategy. So this is going to be a factor that will affect the prices of tier 5 protective reagents. Elemental mutations will make the mobs deal damage with fire or void elements. This will create a demand for infused fire and void absorption potions. Same as with ward potions, crafting them will require tier 5 protective reagents. One more thing related to Arcana is a Topaz Gypsum attunement potion. After the patch, there will be much more players crafting it every day. First of all, the expertise cap will no longer be 590, and secondly, opening gypsum casts after you reach 600 expertise will be one of the ways to obtain umbral shards. As long as this potion also requires magical creatures, the demand for them will increase. Now let's talk about gear and start with weapons. As I mentioned in my previous videos, it is a great time now to buy a decent PvE weapons with Bane perks while they are still relatively cheap. On my server, for example, you can get a 590 plus gear score or even legendary weapons with Bane and enchanted perks for 1-2k. They are great for standard expeditions, and I guess a strong group will never take a member without these weapons in a mutated dungeon. Consider buying them with the main weapon attribute, constitution, or a combination of those stats. Most likely you will need to respec before going to a mutated expedition anyway, and a bow with plus 30 constitution, for example, will be usually much cheaper than the one with 30 dexterity. Armor is gonna be our next topic. All players who plan to focus on mutated expeditions after the January patch will have to get 3 sets of gear with corrupted, angry earth, and ancient ward perks. It should be either medium or heavy, but definitely not light, unless you want to hear many unpleasant words from your teammates. As I already mentioned, staying alive is going to be critically important, and one mistake in light armor will most likely lead to death. If you plan to farm mutated dungeons, then first of all, I recommend you to check the trading post. It is still possible to buy PvE gear for affordable prices. And if you want to craft it, I recommend you to buy the craft modes for ward perks now, while they're still cheap. Apart from them, choose your armor type and buy timeless shards, because I'm sure that the price for them will go up. One more thing that you might need, and that can actually be a very good investment, is constitution craft modes that are called Iron Guardman's Insignia. This attribute fits almost all builds, and that's the reason why this craft mode is much more expensive than the others. Speaking of jewelry, there are amulets and earrings that might be really helpful in mutated expeditions, and you can buy them now for affordable prices because nobody really needs them at the moment. Of course, this is mostly important for tanks, but having some extra damage absorption will be great for any group member. For example, consider buying amulets with a combination of health plus flame or void absorption perks. As we discussed earlier, in dungeons with elemental mutations, mobs will attack you with these elements, and having almost 5% extra damage absorption is a very good bonus. The most useful perk for earrings is definitely a refreshing toast. So as a tank, you might want it to be combined with despised perk for more threat, because this will help you to keep your teammates alive. As a damage dealer, or especially a healer, you should consider buying an earring with beloved perk. You don't want the mobs to start chasing you and make a hard dungeon even harder. Last note for tanks, make sure to buy 2 PvE shields. one with Flame Shield Ward perk and the same one for extra void protection. You can still find cheap options on the trading post, so definitely do it ASAP because they will become much more expensive very soon. The next item category that has already been affected by the forthcoming patch is combat trophies, especially basic corrupted, angry earth and ancient. So far, the price for them increased in at least 2 times on my server. As a result, the prices for epic ingredients that are required to craft them also increased dramatically, or vice versa. I'm not sure what exactly was first. So check your storage, and if you don't need them, then it's a good time to sell them for a decent price. And if these items are still cheap on your server, then you should definitely consider buying them now. Also, if you have 150 furnishing, you can make a lot of gold by selling the basic combat trophies now. I'm telling you that from my experience. Having these trophies will be mandatory for the mutated expeditions. Apart from consumables related to Arcana, we should expect a much higher demand for other items and potions that will be helpful in new expeditions. For example, powerful gemstone dust will not only be useful in mutated dungeons, but it is also required to craft mutated tuning orbs. So the price for the dust itself, as well as the prices for tier 5 gemstones, has already increased, and I guess will increase even more after the patch. I was really glad to find in my storage more than 700 powerful gemstone dust that I completely forgot about. In addition to that, mutated orbs also require energy cores, which means that the price for the modes will increase again. Another reason for the modes to become more expensive is a higher demand for high tier oak flesh balm and honing stones after the patch. Both of them require quintessences, and they will be really useful in mutated expeditions, especially for tanks to decrease the amount of damage they take. Even though tier 5 honing stones and oak flesh balms are not that cheap, I'm sure it will be worth using them on the final stages of mutated expeditions. Getting a silver or a gold rank for completing a dungeon will significantly increase the amount of umbral shards that you get as a reward. And taking into account the price of the tuning orbs and the amount of efforts required to complete it, every single percent of damage or defense will matter. The last thing that I wanted to mention is food with attribute bonuses, especially plus 40 constitution food, or a cheaper alternative called Spice Nog, which is a food from winter event that gives 33 constitution. As long as food for other attributes require much more expensive ingredients, I'm sure that the demand for these two will increase. So it might be a good idea to stockpile some winter food or place cheap buy orders for it and either use it or sell after the patch. So as a conclusion, let's make 2 lists. First one is gonna be the list of the items that you should buy now, and it is gonna be weapons with Bane perks, armor with Ward perks, jewelry, shields, and trophies. And now the list of the items that might be a good investment. That's gonna be magical creatures, modes, constitution craft modes, medium and heavy armored timeless shards, tier 5 gemstones, epic ingredients for basic combat trophies, and winter event constitution food. If this video was helpful, please consider leaving a like and subscribing for more guides. I am Flanker, and I wish you luck in Eternum.